Mr. President, I have been compelled to rise in support of the Work Health and Safety Amendment Digital Work Systems Bill of 2025, and I'm not going to talk to the policy intent of the bill and its significant protections, which have ably been done by the Minister and Treasurer, but I do want to rebut some of the predictable and wildly inaccurate arguments that have been made in the course of this debate, including from the last speaker, particularly those in relation to the requirement to provide entry permit holders with reasonable assistance to access and inspect a digital work system relevant to a suspected contravention. What some members in this place, they have truly taken the criticism of that component to irrational levels. It's just remarkable. Only last week, the Honourable Chris Rath asserted in his chamber that the bill will enable Mark Morey to start looking through the files of self-employed tradies. The idea that the head of Unions New South Wales, particularly this leader of Unions New South Wales, who struggles to crack into his own files on his own computers, let alone files on other people's computers, is going to randomly look through a business owner's emails or accounting files? Are we serious? Or demand access to the secret KFC herbs and spices recipe or the Big Mac secret sauce recipe is so ridiculous. I just feel embarrassed. I feel embarrassed that anyone would assert such nonsense, let alone assert it in those terms. It is ridiculous. Firstly, all the usual safeguards around workplace right of entry permits will remain in place. And it brings us to the whole concept of right of entry, which everyone on the other side seems to know nothing about. The reality of this bill is frankly nothing like the fantasy version presented by those opposite. So it seems to me they're genuinely confused by the concept of union right of entry provisions. And they think that this bill introduces something revolutionary into the industrial landscape. It'll come as a shock to those opposite, but entry permit holders already play a critical role in ensuring that these systems are transparent and accountable in terms of impacts on health and safety. There is over 100 years of legislative amendment and case law that explicitly recognises the role of union officials in being involved with workplace inspections to ensure employers are complying with awards. Over 100 years of it. Unions have been responsibly and effectively exercising entry permits of this nature in Australia for about 100 years. Right of entry powers have been fundamental to uncovering some of the worst workplace scandals in Australia's history. Scandals like systemic wage theft at 7-Eleven, where the unions used right of entry powers to speak directly with workers on site and to compare rosters and pay slips with the actual hours worked. Scandals like the use of piece rates below minimum wage, safety breaches and excessive hours without overtime at Baida poultry processing facilities. Remember that scandal? And scandals like rampant sham contracting and phoenixing in the construction sector, which the Honourable John Ruddock refers to the CFMEU's poor behaviour in that sector, but he fails to mention some of the good work that occurred in that sector, including rampant sham contracting and phoenixing that was absolutely prevalent in the construction sector. There is nothing new about union entry powers. There is nothing new about it at all. It is not remarkable. So the opposition and those opposite can be rest assured, KFC secret herbs and spices are safe.
Order.
The Big Mac secret sauce recipe is safe, but I'll tell you what is not safe from the trade union movement's prying eyes. An attempt to reintroduce feudal models of work under the cloak of disruption and innovation. That is not safe. That is not safe under this bill. And that perhaps is precisely what the opposition fears the most and what some of those opposite fear the most. Because they know all too well that the clock is ticking on the sophistry of innovation and disruption when it's used as a Trojan horse to strip workplace rights, workplace conditions, and workplace wages. That is why some opposition criticisms have been so high on slapstick and so little on substance, because they know the jig is up. They know there is nothing serious that lends itself to supporting the status quo without being seen to defend the indefensible. That's why I'm proudly supporting this bill. It's why those opposite should support it.
Thank you. Are there any further contributions?